Okay. Hello, yes, this is not the best time, Donald. But what did you want?
Putin, I need your help. Listen, I'm here in America. As you know, things aren't going the best. I mean, my COVID response has been great. I've been trying as hard as I can, but the people in this country, they don't care. They won't listen to me. And I need some advice about what to do.
Secret police.
That's what I've been doing. And listen, the fake news mainstream media is painting it like some awful thing. I am trying to keep order and law and liberal Portland, Oregon and MSNBC is painting it as a bad thing. I just don't know what to do. This I've talked to many leaders of different countries and we're all going through a hard time right now. But I just needed someone who was very special, very big, very special to my heart to guide me in this time of need.
Did you post that the Times? Did you post that the New York Times was failing?
Yes, I did. I've been doing all of my beautiful strategies, and they're not working.
Even the bolters?
Yes, even that. This brings me back to a time in my past when I was driving to a Paula Abdul concert with my wife. I forgot her name, but she was there, and so I look out the window of my beautiful, my great limousine, and there's a man beating very harshly, very brutally someone with a bat. And so being who I am, I had to stop it. So I step out of the car. I say, "What are you doing? Stop mugging this man." And the man looks at me and says, "Mr. Trump, I wasn't doing anything." I said, "What the hell are you talking about? You're beating this man with a bat." He ran away, and I stood there and I helped the man up, and he said, "Thank you, Mr. Trump. You are a true American patriot and a hero." In that moment, that's one of the happiest moments I've ever been, because I realized that my true American spirit and my valor was being seen. It's not always seen, but it's there, and it was being seen by this man that I saved. It's not being seen by my people in this country. They're saying, Donald, you're arresting people without probable cause, and you started the COVID pandemic, and that's not true. It was the do nothing Democrats, and I don't know what to do.
Donald, I tell you secret. That man you saved? That was Xi Jinping.
Oh no. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cool Zone podcast. Today, I'll be joining Thomas for a little bit of a discussion on leftist podcast history, and then a dive into mutual aid and the limits of the Marxist-Leninist ideology. I hope you enjoy. I hope there's some things to gain in today's discussion, and we hope you use it well in the cool zone of history.
Okay, do you want to hear the history of rock and roll, but it's actually the history of leftist podcasts?
Sure.
Okay. So we have Street Fight Radio started, I don't fucking know, 08 or some shit, like way early, long time ago. And it's just two guys in Columbus, Ohio, who at the time were like a cable guy and a stay-at-home dad. And yeah, it's kind of funny. And so Street Fight was like the velvet underground of leftist podcasts. They're Ancoms, I think, maybe Ansins. They might be.
Ooh.
Yes, they're very, very fun people. And they just started their little podcast, and it's mainly a call-in show. Like, they're like shock jocks,
Okay.
I guess how I know to describe it. And so they do some really fun stuff out there. And basically, they inspired Chapo to start in 2016. And the reason Chapo was so big at the jump was because they had all of Street Fight listening, and also they were big on Twitter. I don't know the Twitter history, but I do know that basically once Chapo started, around like episode 8 of Chapo, they got a Patreon and started making bank on their Patreon. Because every other episode, of course, is only on Patreon. So if you want the full Chapo experience, you have to get on that. I do not have a Patreon.
Unless you know
I need,
Mary.
huh?
Unless you know Mary over on Black Wolf Feed.
Yeah. And so after Chapo gets going, then around 2018 or 2017, Brace, aka Grandpa, aka Grandma Piss Pig, comes and and starts True Anon. So True Anon is a break off of Chapo, and Chapo is a break off of Street Fight.
Okay.
But
But see, Chapo's kind of become its like own thing, because I hadn't even heard of Street Fight when I found Chapo.
yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the Street Fight conundrum, is that Street Fight has a ton of very dedicated listeners and patrons. I actually am a patron of them because I like watching their TV shows. But they were never a breakout success. Probably because they kind of follow an older format. Like while Chapo rambles, Chapo goes places, I guess. Whereas Street Fight doesn't care if it's just an episode about like their week. Which, to be fair, it's really funny when it is just an episode about their week, because I think they're both like comedians, like the fun small town comedians, you know. But in a comparison, let me see how much on. Because I know Street Fight does not make Street Fight Radio on Patreon. Sorry, you can talk.
I don't have anything to say. I don't know if there's any True Anon listeners that don't listen to Chapo already, or don't at least know about it. I mean, it's a pretty similar vibe. It's similar demographic of people that are listening, you know, Dirtbag Left or whatever.
Dirtbag Left. What do you think about the Dirtbag Left?
The Dirtbag Left is weird for me because I'm not good at being mean, but I think it's done a really good job of just like actualizing people's anxieties. You know, the way that they say on Chapo, like bullying works. It really does. It's a way to relinquish the way you feel against the ruling class, and I think it's given a lot of people ways to realize why they feel the way they do. But I don't know if like anger and just being mean the whole time can be successful in organizing, because you can't live in that environment or else you're going to lose your mind. People aren't meant to be perpetually angry.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also I really like the Dirtbag Left. Listeners of the show, all 3 of them.
Right?
Like nobody will know that I fucking abhor the term left, but I love the term Dirtbag Left. If I could get a shirt and be a real LARPer, I would. So for comparison, Street Fight has a little over 3,000 patrons. Do you want to guess how much money each month Street Fight makes on Patreon?
They got 3,000 patrons. I'm gonna say $15,000.
Really close. They make $13,494.
Okay,
which is about 10% of what Chapo makes.
so a lot more than we have.
Yeah, we should actually break the bonds and go make OnlyFans instead.
Yes, that's genius.
So Chapo makes $158K a month.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I'm not shit talking him. I don't actually give a shit. I frankly agree with Matt Chrisman on the fact that Chapo is actually what the fuck does he say it is? He says it's like it's a craft. So it's not actually within capitalism. It's just a craft, which
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
There's no labor that's being exploited within it, They're just getting money because people want to give them money.
Yeah, that, and also Chapo like employs 8 to 20 people because they have a producer, they pay their music guy, they pay their art people. Like no one's being exploited exactly, but there are 35,373 piss pigs who pay Chapo money. Now, True Anon,
And that's crazy to me.
That 13,000 people or 35,000 people put money into a pot.
Yes, so especially when you can get those episodes for free.
What you get them for? They'd probably crack down if people didn't pay.
Think?
In fact, I think they've literally said they would crack down if people didn't pay.
That's funny. That's real mutual aid right there. People paying so that we can get free.
Okay, so given those numbers, how much do you think True Anon makes each month?
How many patrons do they have?
13,786 patrons.
Wow. I didn't think True Anon was that big. Let's see. I'm gonna guess $100,000.
They make 57K because
oh really?
Yeah, most people do because they have 3 ranks. They have Gumshoe, Detective, and Pedo. Pedo is actually the same as Detective. It's $50 instead of $5, and then Gumshoe is $1.
Okay, so a lot of people are on their $1.
Has one level, which is essentially the $5 Grey Wolf level, except you can dodge taxes on it. So it's split into 2. When Street Fight has no levels, you give what you want.
Interesting. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think's a fair price to charge on Patreon for those episodes?
It depends on the show. True Anon is probably worth $5 a month because they have really fun people on.
Do and there's some good like investigative stuff going on with the Jeffrey Epstein things they have, and they've broken stories before on there, haven't they?
They've essentially broken, or at the very least, they've had people on that mainstream media would mention but would never actually talk to.
Right. Yeah.
I think the next step for all of them, which I don't think that is even things to do, but would be a good development for the track left, is to get someone like a Cornel West on. Like just a really oddly mainstream name, but I don't think that would ever. I just don't think that would ever happen. Oh yeah, you listen to you don't come down.
I don't. You told me to, but I haven't yet.
Gosh, you just really should. Cometown actually runs ads. They run ad space, but they do it in this genius way wherein all their codes, like, because you get little whatever fuck coupon code or whatever, are actually just Cometown. So if you really think about it, they're the ones who are winning because the advertiser has the word come.
I'm surprised that anyone is paying to advertise on Cometown.
That's the joke. But yeah, a lot of advertisers actually are. Oh god.
That's so surprising to me.
It's so surprising. It's mostly like for hymns and dumb shit that I think just does everything automated. Because I actually think about this one a lot. So Cometown has 13,000 patrons. How much do you think they make each month?
$50,000.
They make 58K. Yeah.
Okay. And ads.
And ads, I know. And there's only like 4 to 8 of them. Yeah. The real thing you have to consider, right, is like Street Fight's money is actually the most split out of all of them because they pay a lot of people for a lot of things.
For what?
Well, they have a producer. They're in Means TV.
Okay.
Do you know about Means TV?
I don't know about Means TV.
Means TV is like the bigger. So right before there was the Patreon controversy on left Twitter, there was the Means TV controversy, which Means is I mean, I want to quote them, a post-capitalist worker-owned streaming service.
How fun.
And they are based out of Detroit, and they were founded by two guys, or I mean a woman and I should stop saying pronouns, by Naomi Burton and Nick Hayes.
Okay.
And they do they really only have 2,200 users? I'm a user of Means TV. This is kind of sad. They host alternative entertainment. So
Okay.
they have a lot of really good documentaries, really good art films. Their YouTube channel is the same YouTube channel that Nyan Cat. Do you remember Nyan Cat?
Yes.
Yeah, so Nyan Cat is a communist. And so
Oh.
their YouTube channel hosts that video, which actually gives them a ton of ad bucks, I think. So Means
Bet.
TV, because it's like a worker-owned co-op, and Street Fight got in on the ground floor of that, they're actually getting a television show on there really soon.
It's exciting. I'll have to look into that.
Oh
Nobody
yeah,
tells me about these things.
they have game publishing.
Wow. For all 2,200 users?
For 2,200, yeah. They can publish on Steam, on Twitch. I mean, not on Twitch, on Switch, and on GOG.com, which is pretty big. The big game that they have out so far is Tonight We Riot, which is actually really fun. You go through the streets and you riot against pigs and capitalists,
Wow.
as an explosive crowd brawler, with retro vibes, they say. And eventually you topple world capitalism.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. Trying to think. Oh yeah, Red Scare. So, do you listen to Red Scare?
No, but I've looked into it, but I don't listen.
So sad. Red Scare is arguably more controversial than Come Town, I would say. But that's just because they're women, and you know how I feel about women.
Okay.
They have 7,000 patrons. Guess how much they make each month?
$15,000.
$32K.
Oh, okay. I was halfway there.
Yeah. Because they have $5 for their premium, for their normal premium, but then they have a $20 tier called Pervert tier. And then they have a $50 tier called Findom tier, where you might get a t-shirt or you might get nothing.
Let's roll the dice for $50.
$50.
I kind of want that t-shirt. I don't even listen. There's something illustrious about maybe getting it or maybe not.
Either you do, I know, it's like ultimate Findom. They don't even owe you shit. Oh my god. The next step of feminism is actually just full financial dominance.
Yes. Women will become the capitalists of the world.
Yeah, actually, better than socialism is just if women actually own all the means of production and men get exiled.
I want to see the alternate universe where the matriarchy is in place and everything is the exact same, except the roles are reversed. How do you think that would play out?
There's like a book about that or some shit. I think. It reminds me of the Pretties series, where like there's a society that forces people are born, looking normal, and then at like 16 they all get massive plastic surgery across their entire bodies.
Wow.
And like they break all their bones and reset them so
Oh my
they'll be
god.
taller and shit.
That's what I feel like the world's going to turn into.
It might
If late
too.
capitalism continues.
If
You ever
late
read
capitalism,
Brave New World?
Brave New, yeah. Or it's like, well, that's probably what happened to the Trump kid, Barron. He's like 7 feet
You're
tall.
right. Oh my god.
I'm the only
Totally just,
person
like,
in the
put
dirtbag
new legs
left
on
who
him.
can shit on Barron because we're the same age, I think.
Okay. How old is Baron?
He's actually slightly younger than me. Yeah, he's 14.
That's slightly younger than you.
We're the same age, basically. What counts
He's
is
so
that he's my type.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to say. That's statutory like shit.
That's fair. I would love
Okay,
to
go
turn
ahead.
him into a socialist.
Dude,
Like, I
he
just think
looks
that would
like
be
a
the best thing.
socialist.
He does.
Look at how he dresses. I also
Him and
sent
I
a
have the
pussy.
same posture.
Do you?
Yes.
He takes standing lessons.
Really? Maybe I need standing lessons.
I do the Trump family standing lessons. That's I do that and voter fraud
What's the regimen for the standing lessons?
for standing lessons. I actually have you stand in a room with an old Russian babushka, and she just
Okay.
pops you when you fuck up. But
Can you
she
put, like,
can't
books on
see.
the head? Well, so that way you don't drop them on the floor.
Well, you would do that normally, but actually on a Trump head, their whole head is a soft spot.
You
So
don't wanna
you
push
put
it any
books
further.
on there, yeah, if you put books on there, it'll fuck them up. That's actually what happened to Rosemary Kennedy. A lot of
Oh.
people think that she was disabled from birth because the nurse pushed her back into her mother's womb for 5 hours. But actually, it was because I gave her standing lessons. And when I was giving them, I put a book on her head, and her whole head was soft
Like,
because
caved
she was a
in?
kid, and so it just mushed her brain.
That might have also happened because she was a baby.
I
You didn't
mean,
think
you're
about
never
that,
too
did you?
young for standing lessons.
Teach baby straight out of the womb, stand right now. I think that's a great idea. Get them walking as soon as possible.
You have to especially for Kennedys. Kennedys have to start as early as possible.
That's right, and she would be making speeches and public appearances by what, like 5, 6? She needs to learn now.
And madly disabled.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm scrolling through. So have you heard the current left Twitter discourse?
Which one?
The birtherism on left Twitter.
No, I haven't heard the birtherism. I saw something strange today, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it, so explain it to me.
So it started with this guy, Ryan Knight. And Ryan is a dim suck who has pulled a move very similar to the other big he's a blue check mark. He was a Hillary supporter. He was also a child soldier.
Where?
Things. Not Ryan Knight, but this other guy that I'm talking about. Good question. Where was he a child soldier? He was a child soldier in not Egypt, but next to it. Fuck. I should remember. See, no research.
That's how we do things here.
Exactly. I've also decided I'm going to upload this one just raw, so that the 3 listeners can know how hard it is for me to edit. So
Good.
yeah. So fuck. Anyway, so that guy did this big conversion thing, and I'm going to remember his name later and hate it. I don't actually use Twitter except to just like things like once a month.
Yes. Smart way to do.
Ryan Knight was a dim suck, perhaps still is a dim suck, who started reading Marx and basically has come a lot further lately. I guess he technically has a podcast called Amped Up. I've never heard of it in my life. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but apparently he has one. And so he is getting bombarded on Twitter right now by Neera Tanden.
Oh my god.
I can't believe she's not dead.
Me either.
That's well, Jesus Christ. And so she is saying that he actually was not even born in America, and so he actually cannot even vote here. And so she is saying that he has no right to attack Joe Biden, and is in fact alleging that left Twitter is an op by the Russians, to destroy American democracy by destroying the Democratic candidate for president.
Genius.
Genius. I know. And just to prove it's not, it is currently 2036 Moscow time where I am. I can promise you that I'm not a Russian op because this is after union hours, so I could not possibly be doing this.
This could be your own side project.
My side project that George Soros has no funding in.
Well, I don't know where the paychecks are coming from. I am getting paid, right?
Yeah, I just get these little gold bars with swastikas on them, and I just, I get like one a week.
When I was in Russian training for Twitter, I thought they mentioned you. Were you not in my class? I thought I remember you in there.
A lady never tells,
Uh-huh. That's fair.
But maybe. Oh, the old mayor of South Bend, Indiana died, apparently. What the fuck? Why
who did that?
I wonder who did that. Yeah, probably some guy who murdered his father, the Marxist thinker. Why does Twitter give me weird notifications about things that aren't even like people that I follow?
I don't know.
I'm also trying to figure out why random people on Twitter follow me.
That happens to me sometimes too. Like I'll retweet something, and people that have like 2,000 or more following will just follow you based on your retweet. That's how I got so many followers.
Literally that exactly.
100 of them.
But I think if I post, I don't know if they'll follow. Fuck with the post. You know what I should do? They don't interact with yours. I think that I'm gonna actually go subtweet all of the Chapos with a link to this week's episode as much as possible.
Good idea. Wow. I was just gonna put it on like my Instagram story or something, but that's way better.
No, you also do that. Do that as well. Don't actually
get 6 listeners.
6 whole less listeners. Don't actually at me on. Oh fuck! I'm so sorry.
You do.
I accidentally clicked another Discord channel.
It's funny.
I don't even know what the fuck we were talking about. Don't actually at me on Insta. Actually, no one is allowed to know this.
It's fine. I will be making the public appearance.
Yeah, you're fine, Shea. You're fine. I live in perpetual fear.
Yeah, I'll probably get assassinated eventually anyway. I'm bad with security, so might as well put myself out in the open while I can.
That's one thing that I wonder quite often. I'm like, I wonder when they'll go into Brooklyn and drag crippled Matt Christman.
That is what I am wondering. Like, he is doing too much with these live streams. I mean, I don't know what his audience is, but there's too much being spread for the CIA. Like, there has to be some kind of plan.
He gets a lot of views. Not on YouTube. Oddly, Chapo on YouTube very unsuccessful. I don't know why.
Yes.
Chapo on YouTube is actually how I access classic Chapo. I've listened to probably 90% of Chapo episodes, which is really shameful, actually.
Yes, I agree.
But so Chapo on Twitch gets a very surprising number of views. So 2 days ago, while he was live for an hour. But the bigger thing about that is he just goes on whenever the fuck he pleases. And in case someone doesn't know, he doesn't work a job. So that's at like 2 in the fucking afternoon when everyone is at work. So they do pretty oddly well for a talk show.
I agree. I mean, I always watch them on YouTube because that's when I'm working. But like, it only gets like 10,000 views a video, I think, from what I've seen. Again, I don't know on Twitch.
And Twitch is exclusively him and a thing called Chapo FYM, which is them and people who do gaming at Means TV and a few other random Let's Players or podcasters who just play video games all the time. Those videos only get like 300 views though. No one watches their
No one
gaming
watches
content.
this. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. Oh, so Deadspin is coming back. Do you remember Deadspin?
That sounds familiar.
Deadspin was like a magazine.
Really? Probably seen it on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, so Deadspin Media existed. It was a quote unquote sports blog. It was previously owned by
That's
Gawker
right. Yeah.
and Univision, and then it got bought by Geo Media. Somebody worked for Deadspin. Maybe not
Somebody
Brace, but somebody in the discourse, some dirtbag leftist, worked for Deadspin for a point in time. Because I've heard them talk about it 80 trillion times.
Yes. Yeah. Now I remember. I definitely heard that on Chapo.
Yes. So whoever the fuck it was, yeah. Now the funny thing on Chapo right now is Virgil is back.
Yeah.
Virgil's been back. But Virgil, I don't understand. Like, I love Virgil. Virgil's my favorite Chapo. I'm probably one of the only people in the world who would say that. I don't know what he does at Chapo.
I don't either. Something seems different about him too now that he's back.
Yeah.
I don't know what he learned while he was thinking that he was dying, but he's much more quiet.
Well, he got sent to Siberia.
Oh, for re-education?
Actually, it was to suck Jordan Peterson's toes so he would get healthier better. But yes, for re-education.
They drained his energy. Oh my god, why didn't I think of it? Jordan Peterson was dying and they sent Virgil
there. But so basically he introduces the podcast a lot and talks like he's the one publishing it.
Isn't his bio on Twitter like senior political analyst for Chapo?
Oh, that's how they get into debates. His technical, I think Chapo is technically like an incorporated. It only appears on like New York state registries or some shit, but he's technically like the only employee / co-owner of Chapo, just so that he can file for tickets to debates and things.
Smart.
Is he actually back on Twitter?
No,
I didn't
think so.
He was. He's not.
Again, I don't know what he's been doing, but I guess they couldn't kick him off the show in his absence because he was the owner, you know.
Well, they're all co-owners.
Okay.
That's
I just thought he was the official one.
No. When you do an Inc., you can do multiple owners. There was a point in time where I was going to go into landscaping with some friends.
Wow.
That's like the thing to do if you're a group of high school boys who are able-bodied and have too much time on your hands. Around here is you go into landscaping.
Does it pay well?
Oh, it pays stupid well.
Wow.
If you don't want to go to college, you can make $60K a year. Plus employ people at like 20. Because I know somebody who does that. Yeah.
Why didn't you do that instead?
Do I look like? I mean, I actually do kind of look like I don't mind it. It's not that I mind physical labor. It's that I don't know. I spend all my time writing.
Yeah.
My goal, as you may or may not know, is to have as many descriptors on Twitter as I possibly on my Wikipedia page as I possibly can when I die.
Okay.
And I want it to say I was a sickly child. Everyone who's cool says they were like sickly. It's like, oh, Vladimir Lenin was sickly, and his mother dressed him in like women's dresses until or some shit.
I think I could be described as sickly. Like I weigh what, like 120 pounds?
Yeah. You're sickly. Just
I wonder, do
I
I
can't-
want a Wikipedia page? Is that a good
do you
goal
want
to have?
Yeah, of course, a good goal to have. You can make it yourself as long as you don't do it like an idiot. Like, have you ever heard the Pete Buttigieg Wikipedia page Discord?
No.
So he made his own Wikipedia page, or at least someone who worked for him, probably him, made a Wikipedia page for him when he first ran for mayor of South Bend and lost, and then ran for
Oh.
state treasurer and lost. And so it got taken down multiple times. Like, the primary contributor on his Wikipedia page, and there's like weird news articles about this, is someone with like a weird, obscure South Bend high school name that he like went to or some shit. It's just like
Mhm.
clearly did it himself, which is a gross violation of the rules. And it's hysterical.
Everything surrounding him is so sus. So shady.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, he's very, very shady. So I don't know what the fuck Virgil is doing. I have a theory that Virgil I have a theory that Virgil was uploading all the videos onto YouTube the whole time.
That was his job.
That was his job. Right now, I'm just disappointed that they're canceling the in-person Republican convention or whatever the shit they're doing.
I know. I wanted to go and like cough all over them. That would have been so fun.
If it was gonna be in North Carolina, I was gonna go.
Oh, I know. I would have gone too.
Because I live in nondescript mountains near there, and it was not that bad or not that far for me. I actually have crippling social anxiety, but I don't think I'd have anxiety about going and doing that. I think I could just show up, just have a grand old time.
Too. We could have gone together.
Yeah, we could have met.
We're both not that far.
Street Fight was gonna be there. Trillbillies. Oh yeah, do you listen to Trillbillies?
No.
Do you like Appalachia at all?
I do.
You do like Appalachia. Well, they're the Appalachian dirtbag leftists, other than myself, who is
Brilliant.
yeah, they're really fun. Let's see. So they have 3,637 patrons. How much do you think they make per month?
1,500.
16,000, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
16,000? Lord have mercy.
Well, it's split. I mean, it's only split 3 ways, truth be told. But I didn't realize like Street Fight must have just gone up lately, or I've been misreading their number because I thought Street Fight was only making a couple thousand each month. Looking back, I was probably reading the number of patrons and thought that was a dollar amount. I don't know.
Big brain.
A big, but like when you break down how much they make per month, a lot of them actually do make pretty good money. It's the vaguely obscure ones that make like nothing. Like for example, Benjamin Dixon makes like nothing. I don't think he's just more professional.
I wonder, we could get like 50 patrons, couldn't we? That'd be like
I think
$1,000.
so. That'd be $50 exactly. You know, you can do a lot of things with $50.
Can.
So like, yeah. So Benjamin Dixon came out of, he's a black guy. He lives in, I think, Atlanta. He's technically just a progressive, I think. I don't think he subscribes to any, he might be a dim suck or a suck dim. He came out of he came out of, fuck me. Call me, goddamn. Not enough coffee. So he comes out of the Majority Report circuit.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you know the Majority Report?
I've heard of it. I thought that was like a right-wing news.
No, it's the opposite actually. Majority FM. Majority Report is Sam Cedar. Now, he has an interesting history himself, Sam Cedar, but the Majority Report started, on Air America, which was a radio network from before your time. And it was from 04 to 06. And at first, it was hosted by a woman named Janine Marie Garofalo, who's famous for becoming a stand-up comedian and a cast member on Saturday Night Live. And so she gets this guy who comes out of fucking nowhere called Sam Cedar to co-host. And then Sam Cedar ends up taking over the whole show shortly after her. And Air America was a huge radio talk show thing that specialized in quote unquote progressive talk radio. Although I think someone weird like Ben Shapiro was also on there.
That might have been where I heard it from. I don't know. When I thought of Majority Report, I thought of Ben Shapiro.
Now they get in fights with him. Yeah. So they had fucking Rachel Maddow. Is where she got her big radio podcasting start, was on Air America. And this is just a weird ramble, but basically the Majority Report then worked with the Young Turks for a while, which is Chink Veigar, vaguely awful people, vaguely. And so the Majority Report broke off from them because Sam got a job at MSNBC. Sam still appears on MSNBC quite regularly. He's a talking head. I don't actually know what his credentials are. I can Google them. But yeah, he just went to fucking Connecticut College. He has nigh on no credentials except that he's been doing radio since 1987. Yeah. Yeah, he don't look 53 though. He looks young and spry. And so they actually apparently they win People's Choice Awards. Majority Report does. Anyway, so they came back in 2010, Majority Report did, and he got that job, and then he cheated, Sam did, on his wife. And that got him fired-ish. He was one of the first people to get canceled, basically. Except it wasn't for like rape, it was just for cheating on his wife and getting a divorce. Yeah, so Garofalo got fired / left the show because after 9/11, she supported a Scientology-linked treatment program for firefighters and first responders.
Jesus, these people.
Yeah, I know. Nobody's good online.
No.
Nobody. Just kill your heroes, unless their names end with N. So then the Majority Report comes back, and it basically hosts everyone, quite frankly, anyone that would appear except Noam Chomsky, in any quote unquote left-wing media source. So MSNBC, CNN, any of those. Any talking head that would be on there and would be considered a leftist kook on there comes on Majority Report quite regularly just to chat and drink coffee. And so they hire all the mainstream-ish, like the mainstream educated, young talking heads. So like Michael Brooks worked there.
Yeah.
Ken
Klippenstein.
The fuck is Ken Klippenstein?
Don't know who that is.
No, I want to hear it though.
He's some like he was on TrueAnon on the last episode, I think, and he's just I know him off of Twitter, but he's some kind of political reporter who seems he might be a dim suck, but he seems pretty left. So I assumed
they're just all dim suck. Oh, I follow him on Twitter. Oh, he's oh, he's the Freedom of Information Act guy.
Yes.
Oh, he's funny.
I like him.
Yeah, he's definitely a dim suck or some shit.
Fuck the
nation. Literally fuck the nation. So anyway, what I was saying was the Majority Report, you should listen to it. It's actually good. It's basically mainstream news except halfway a talk show.
It's useful.
The main There's a chick on it who looks like the goth character from NCIS.
Okay.
And she hosts another podcast. She has her own podcast.
I don't have time to listen to all these things.
Because I don't do anything else. I never
Yeah.
stop listening to shows, basically. Except to go to sleep when I
wish I
watch
could die.
Minecraft.
Yes.
So she hosts the Antifada podcast with someone else. So here's a secret. Here's a secret. When I just stop talking, just say words.
I don't have any comments to add. I'm here. I'm learning the history of leftist podcasts. But you know what? We can go ahead and do belated introductions if you want.
Belated introductions, okay.
So I am Shea. I'm a gay socialist. I have been told previously that I am incapable of forming intelligent opinions, and so it seems like I'll be right at home here on Cool Zone.
And I remain Thomas, do I say perennial host because I come back all the time?
Fair.
of the show. So and Shea is probably the new co-host, probably.
Hope so.
It depends on how often Shea wants to appear. If Shea wants to do every week, we'll do every week.
We'll do every week, I think. I hope. As long as you don't kick me off.
I won't kick you off. I don't fucking care. You can say whatever you want. You can say racial slurs. It's like cussing.
I don't want to say racial slurs. If you say a racial slur, I might leave.
Oh, that's sad, kind of. Oh wow. So the Antifada is kind of funny. I didn't know that they did. So basically, Antifada is a comedy and politics pod from Jamie Peck, Sean KB, and the girl's name is AP Andy, I think, or maybe she's Peck. You know, I don't fucking know. You've probably seen them on Twitter. They're actually kind of interesting. I don't know how much money they make on Patreon. They don't publish that. They only said they have 1,845 patrons. Oh, they want 1,917 patrons. They currently have 1,845. So they kind of broke off from Majority Report. What I'm saying is basically dirtbag left podcasting is like a pyramid scheme, except no money gets exchanged and no intellectual capital gets exchanged. It's actually just people are just inspired to go do things.
Yes. And that's why it means so much if you're one of our 6 listeners today.
You know, we actually don't even get AdSense. I actually got a copyright block on a video.
For what?
For having apparently Angela Davis, apparently all of the Black Panthers. If you use any of their speeches ever, any recording, especially a recording that says that it's free to use because it's published by the UN itself, you will get copyright striked. And so when I told YouTube to just cut that part out, they then informed me that one of the free to use Chinese videos I had was also copyright strike.
I saw that.
And so I had to. I don't give a shit. I was like, I will never make money off of YouTube anyway. Let's be really honest here. And so I basically said, go fuck yourself.
Now we have ads on the videos, but they're not going to us.
Oh, are there ads? This is so interesting to hear.
Well, I think that's what happens when you get a copyright strike. Like they put ads on your video that go to.
Oh, yes. On a copyright strike, what all that means is that if you were to get money from the video, it would be given to YouTube and to the person who put the strike on you.
We don't have ads and we don't make money.
No.
So what
So what?
What happens that we got copyright striked?
It means that I guess they will probably start putting ads on it. I don't know.
I guess
the only way that I know is in the context of Deleted, a guy who I help out / worked for, who does YouTube full time, who taught me a lot of things that I should be using that I don't actually use because it doesn't matter.
Well, do you want to go into a little bit of theory? I know that you've been planning some stuff, and I have too.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, a lot of times when I am talking to people or trying to spread, the message of socialism, what comes up a lot of times is they think that it can't happen because we live in such a selfish society, and people aren't going to be willing to give up the material comfort that they have, especially in America. And two, which is what I've heard from some rather smart people, is that um, there will still be the creation of others, and there will still be human tribalism, and people just aren't going to work together like you think they will. And so, in order to counter this idea, I recently read Mutual Aid by Peter Kropotkin, which shows that mutual aid was one of the biggest factors in evolution of man and in our history. I mean, it was huge. And mutual aid being the idea that, or countering the idea of Darwin, which obviously says that we compete and that's how we evolve and grow as a species, where Kropotkin says that, in fact, competition is not the main driver of evolution in history, but it's mutual aid when species provide for each other and work in groups and work together for the betterment of the community and the species. And he goes into that a little bit. He talks about ants and bees and some birds that work together for common defense, for food gathering, and each certain members of the community have different roles, but they all benefit from the work that they all do. And towards the end of the book, I didn't read all of it. I've just read several chapters. He goes into mutual aid between humans, and this is again where I get a lot of people objecting to the idea that people will work together. And I just really like this quote that Kropotkin said. He said, "The absorption of all social functions by the state necessarily favored the development of an unbridled, narrow-minded individualism. In proportion as the obligations towards the state grew in numbers, and the citizens were evidently relieved from their obligations towards each other. In the guild and in medieval times, every man belonged to some guild or fraternity. Two brothers were bound to watch in turns a brother who had fallen ill. It would be sufficient now to give one's neighbor the address of the next pauper's hospital." And he kind of goes on like that, talking about the way in which medieval society organized and the way that people really organized in community and not only looked out for each other, but provided for each other for the sake of survival. And that is why I really think that mutual aid is a great evolutionary tactic, because when people say that humans and all animals are inherently selfish and will always look out for their survival, I think that's true, but to provide and to look out for each other, one of the best ways to survive and one of the best ways to guarantee your development and security. Um, and this goes into something that Mark Fisher once wrote about. When we live in late stage capitalism and we're alienated from the people around us and, of course, our labor, and we begin to see rising mental illness and rising depression rates, a lot of times, obviously, pharmaceutical companies and liberals will say that this is just new discovery, that people have always been depressed, but it was never looked into. And I think that that's true to some extent, but I also think that as the state sort of systemically took away community and mutual aid reliance among people and made them reliant upon the state, we have sort of seen the perversion um, of our natural instinct to provide for each other. And that is why people are so unhappy and depressed and mentally ill, not because we are just seeing it now, but because we are living in a state that isn't meant for us. We don't have community, we don't have genuine friends. Everything has a dollar put on it, and to live in an environment that if it's selfish people when we are not meant to be a selfish species, really fucks with the brain. I think we live in the neoliberal era. We're so far gone from having any institutionalized aid amongst each other, and it's so hard for people to be able to picture what that would look like in modern society. And so it's easier to say that it's not possible, but all of evolution and all of human history says otherwise. In fact, until the rise of feudalism and of the state, we have always looked out for each other in communities. And I don't know what that would realize itself as in today's society, But I think that has to be where we end up because, like Hegel and Marx said, this can't last forever because there's too much contradiction within it. We will either die as a species, I think, because we're not mentally die as a species, because we're not fulfilling the need in our mind for social companionship, or we will destroy the system that incentivizes the destruction of that social reliance. What do you think about mutual aid?
I actually really like it. I even like the Kropotkin work on it. When I teach and cover Marxian econ, I try and start with Ye Old Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, of course.
Because I just like the lines in it. Historical materialism's fun, but there's easier ways to teach it than that. I just like the way that Marx speaks in that one specifically. But Kropotkin, despite having a weird bread Santa way of talking, actually is kind of interesting. And his thoughts on mutual aid are really helpful. And we certainly see them come through in like anarcho-syndicalist tendencies. A lot of anarcho-communists claim him, but he's certainly at best a utopian socialist. So, and I also use him kind of as an example of like, I like him, but I only like parts of him. Because if you were to take in all of what Kropotkin says, he's quite utopian. And he basically, that level of anarchy immediately following capitalism, would just dissolve. I do have a question though. How would you describe your political tendency or scientific tendency, as it may be?
Well, first of all, I am a Marxist. I'm a big fan, obviously, of historical materialism and of the way Marx describes the current state of the world. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I think that a lot of examples of the ideology realized, such as obviously Stalin in the Soviet Union and Mao, were good ideas, and the revolutions worked beautifully. But after they took control of the state apparatus, there wasn't enough. There wasn't a check and power to them, and ultimately, and there wasn't enough defense to capitalism from the outside, that eventually these states fell to needless killings of so-called reactionaries, many of whom might have been reactionaries, but many of whom likely weren't. And I think that shows itself in the fact that these states eventually did devolve. I like the Marxist-Leninist ideology. I think, again, as I said, it had protracted people's war is a great way to organize revolution, but it needs to be developed in what happens after. And I think that is a critique of many socialist ideologies, is that nobody really knows what to do after the revolution. And I don't know if there's a right answer to that, but I am a big fan of the scientific way in which Marx views the development of history and the way people react to it. But again, another reason I chose Kropotkin was I think it's useful to get ideas from people that you might think are stupid, like Ann Combs, or even like SOCSTEMs. Like there are good ideas here that we can pick and choose from, and obviously no one's perfect. But I like leftist unity. I think that when the Marxist-Leninist state starts killing anarchists is when it's failed, because the tendency of that state is to drift towards authoritarianism, drift towards bureaucracy, especially. And I think having the anarchist critique of that, while it might not be scientific and it might not be practical in the way that they want to organize society after the revolution, the ideals of said ideology are great and are really what we want after the Marxist-Leninist state anyway. It's just we disagree on how to get there.
So you don't like like the single party state?
I don't hate the single party state, and again, I think it can be realized, but I just don't think it's been realized in a good way yet. It needs wider opportunity for critique without falling prey to outside imperialist forces. And I don't know of a good way to do that, but that's just my analysis of the systems as they've been done.
Mm. I certainly do agree that to a certain extent, I mean, most current socialist experiments have failed. All socialist experiments have failed.
Hmm.
I probably am not allowed to say all of them, but certainly
There's
like
one
the
somewhere.
USSR, China, etc., failed.
Hmm.
Vietnam largely is just no longer socialist, although it does have zero COVID deaths. So
I know.
I'm very proud of them. But I mean, like so for example, anarchists. One issue or one tendency that tends to arise if we look at history and if we look at the history of socialist states is that like Makhnovia rose up, right? And
Hmm.
once Makhnovia existed, um, they had to go destroy that. Like, and to be fair, it wasn't even like I mean they sent goddamn Trotsky to go destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trotsky was the general who oversaw the destruction of Makhnovia. And Makhnovia, so basically, for example, the Ukraine um, is historically just a region of Russia. There is no history of a national Ukraine. It would be like there being a history of a national Beijing.
Hmm.
I- It's just, I mean, they're ethnically Russian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when this Ukraine rises up under Makhno, it was largely just funded by Nazis. Actually, current Ukraine is what we would call an invention of the Nazis after they invaded the Russians,
Okay.
basically.
I know that.
Um, and so basically, when Trotsky goes in there, he's sent in there by the Supreme Soviet. I'm not gonna pretend to remember who was in charge at the time. It was either Lenin or Stalin. I mean, it's like 50-50. But basically he rolls in and absolutely slaughters it. But Makhnovia essentially exists today. There is a region of the Ukraine, the occupied Ukraine, where the Russians are currently reclaiming it. Um, that functions as essentially a corporate state. It would probably describe itself as closer to syndicalist. Um, but it followed Makhno's example of anarchist lines because Makhno argued that his answer to the national question was immediate anarchy. Um, but I mean, we if you read a lot of Mao or if you read Trotsky, especially later internationals, we basically come to the consensus that certainly the culture has to be revived after capitalism
Yes.
because um and this may or may not lead to what I was going to talk about. This may just be a discussion. I don't know. And so as we're reviving this culture after capitalism, we certainly have to destroy a lot of very natively reactionary bents within any society that has lived under. Because as we exist under it, as we exist within it, we see these issues come up within our culture. We see a rise of a sense of greed. We see a rise of a sense of entitlement, and we see a rise of a sort of entropic thinking that over time we become more and more accustomed to these liberal systems continuing as they are, and over time we come to fetishize law and order, right? And this idea of justice. Um, and it was interesting that you used authoritarian because, like, one large discourse right now that I'm seeing is a revival of an older thought, which is to say that authoritarianism isn't actually necessarily a thing that exists. It's the idea that, like, I mean, clearly, whether or not people can interact with their government in any direct way to them isn't always the most important thing to them. And while we advocate for democracy and we advocate for the people to represent themselves, we also do so like under the one party Maoist way, right? Under this mass line party, this one party is the only one that can represent all people in the mass line.
Hmm.
Um, and Mao saw to doing many effective purges that would mean that the cultural revolution, which had to match always the physical revolution, had to progress the people and undo all of the old capitalist ways of thinking. And in doing so, he had to make sure that anyone who might be reactionary was done away with, because the largest issue that Mao foresaw, and the issue that the Cultural Revolution largely solved, with the exception of Deng Xiaoping, was to remove elements from the party that were counter-revolutionary, yes, that were liberal, yes, but predominantly that saw their way as best, or that were book worshippers. A lot of the people, quote-unquote leftists, that were killed by Mao in things like the Thousand Flowers campaign were essentially either book worshippers or revisionists. Because the issue with things like left unity, as I've said, I think before, is that it is ultimately utopian, rather quite. I mean, I'm not saying that you're utopian. Clearly, you understand things, but it operates on the idea that there is an ideal, and that we are just that we can all realize our mutual ideals. Like, I guess because Marxism is so scientific, clearly the only people I would want to agree with would be other Marxists. Specifically Marxist-Leninist Maoists. I don't like orthodox Marxists at all. I don't like book worshipping Marxists at all. And so it's like, if we really dig into it, there's no way for my socialist future to coexist with a Luxemburgist's socialist future, for example. It can be modified. I would work in I'm in the PSL, so I'm in a vanguard party alongside anarcho-syndicalists or Luxemburgists or ANCOMs. But I mean, certainly post-revolution, presumably mid-revolution, you couldn't, like, the mass line in that party can never be, it can never try even, I would argue, to represent all the groups that would like to speak into it. Because if it did so, it would no longer represent the people. Because at the end of the day, it's a large minority, right, of people who are quote unquote leftists, to the extent that they have determined an ideology like that. I think everyone is born a socialist, and it is simply beaten out of them over time. But certainly, we are not. I don't think that there is, there is reform available for those who are miseducated, but there's no reason for the party to allow people to say, we have to try this other line. And I don't think that that's authoritarian, whatever authoritarian really is, because I think that it's like, it's about the proletarian. It's not about theory discussions or like vague arguments back and forth on specifics.
That's why I think, because like the way you talk about the mass line, it acts as if, the proletarian as a whole and the masses as a whole have some, despite the dissenters, have some coherent idea, like this is what we all want, in spite of revisionists or whatever. And I just don't think that's true. And I just think that the way in which the state or whatever apparatus is organized after the revolution, even in spite of the vanguard, has to really listen to the not as coherent as you would like mass line, and to kill off or silence large swaths of proletariat and of the mass line, I think means that you haven't done your job right. Obviously, that there's re-education that needs to be done. There's unlearning the cultural capitalist ideas that you had, but I think that progression is inevitable and is natural if you're not living in a capitalist environment. If we lived in a socialist state, we wouldn't have these ideals, and it might take a while. Those people will come to learn, and it doesn't require the sort of silencing. And maybe that is kind of utopian, but again, in the abstract and in the logical, real method of organization and any reactionary ideas can't live in a non-capitalist place. They're not sustainable. And people will come to realize, you know, maybe even if it's by arbitrary chance, we go this way instead of that way. Well, this way seems to be in the right direction, and then we go this way or that way, and maybe we go the wrong way. But then hopefully that there's an apparatus that will be able to correct that. And I mean, this really just comes from my innate dislike of silence and repression. And again, like I said, maybe that is utopian. I don't want to kind of throw that out the window, and it also speaks to something that I don't know what the mass line wants. I am not the mass line. Vanguard, despite being the spearhead of the masses, is not in charge of the mass line. And so I can't act as if I know what they want, and two, I can't act as if I know what is best. Especially if it hasn't been realized yet. It might sound great in the abstract, but when it's realized, when the experiment is realized in itself, it might fail. I think that much like in the scientific realm, failure is necessary to the socialist experiment. As long as we can learn from those failures, as long as people realize what went wrong with these certain experiments and what we can do differently the next time, if there is a next time, I just think that even if there is a revolution soon, it might be organized in the wrong way afterwards, and it might fail. Hopefully, it won't fail to. Hopefully, the revolution in itself is successful enough to destroy capitalism worldwide. But the project that follows might not be as sustainable as we think it is, and might fail. And there's no way to tell because I can't predict the future, and I can claim that my organization methods are empirical and scientific. But much like other science of the past, might be proven to fail when actualized. And I just think that that's really important to keep in mind and to weigh the consequences of that failure when thousands upon thousands of lives are on the line.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair. Pretty good. And I guess this may be a debate that plays out more and more over time because, of course, I do wake up every morning and read my quotes from Mao.
Little Red Book.
Oh yeah. I read 10 quotes every morning from Mao. Do my half hour of party calisthenics.
And again, like, that's not to say that I think Mao is useless and that he didn't have good ideas. I mean, Lenin to Mao to Castro all had some really good ideas and methods of organization, and but again, when actualized, didn't always work out. And that's not to say that they're useless or even that they're evil people, because it was an experiment. It was playing out as it went along, and sometimes things like that out of hand, and you don't realize what you've gotten into until it has happened. But that's not to say that their intentions were bad or that they're useless as theorists or even scientists.
Yeah, and I mean you're fine. I have arguments. I just don't. It's whatever to me at this point. But you follow the more, I suppose, mainstream Marxist doctrine of like I think Chapo would agree with what you said, but also like most American socialists that I know would probably follow more like what you said, like almost a Bookchin, almost a libertarian socialist, but not quite. Because of course, to be a Marxist-Leninist is to by necessity be that mythical, non-existent Stalinist. Because of course, without Stalin, Lenin and Marx aren't reconciled. And similarly, to be an MLM, to add that Mao requires understanding that Gonzalo and kind of reconciling with that that South American idea, which is like, sometimes you got to boil babies, because Gonzalo did not boil babies. That's an unfortunate joke. Have you ever heard of Gonzalo?
No, I haven't. Who is Gonzalo?
So Gonzalo comes out of the Shining Path. 1 second, I have to Google. And this is actually not my fun thing to talk about today. His name is Abimael Guzman, aka Gonzalo. He was Chairman Gonzalo of the Shining Path, the Maoist insurgency in Peru.
Right.
And in 1992, he was captured by the Peruvian government and sentenced to life imprisonment for terrorism and treason because the Shining Path basically became a cartel and he bombed some people. But before that, they were a quote-unquote foreign terrorist organization recognized by the U.S. For decades. And the U.S. lies and says that they did a lot of things, for primary of which being that they supposedly boiled quite a few babies because the babies were revisionists.
Oh, I see. The reactionary babies.
Yes, so if you've ever seen reactionary babies as a meme, it comes from this. And I'm not laughing at the thought of babies being boiled. I'm laughing at the absurdism that the babies would choose to be revisionists as opposed to being social. Who could say who won't be boiled? But he was the one. He translated all of that. He kind of puts Mao into English and puts Mao into the Marxist line basically. Did you have a special topic that you wanted to talk about, or was that it? Or you want me to...
No, that's it. And actually, I have a hair appointment at 2:45 that I have to get to. But I should be done by like 3. I should be back home by like 3:30 if you're still available, and that way we can get into your theory, whatever you wanted to talk about. Is that okay?
Oh, okay. We'll probably, if you want to do it cold open, we'll record it then.
Yeah, that works.
Ciao.